Welcome to this video. This is coverage for Game 11 of the World Championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Vishy Anand. Yeah, Game 11, we're nearing the end of the match and Carlsen is still leading this thing before Game 11. And Anand badly needs to win a game. This one, Game 11 with black, or the final game, Game 12 with white. Yeah, a win, but with black, very difficult. It was interesting to see what opening we will see today. Yeah, Carlsen opened with 1e4 as expected. He played this the whole match and had good results. He won Berlin, yeah, the game number 2, and he won game 6, the by now famous double blunder game. But, well, this single spot was shaky in game 6, of course, but other than that, it was a convincing victory in a way, as he had the big opening advantage and then converted this. Yeah, so e4 again, and Anand is playing e5, so we will see a Rui. Okay, and this basically means the Berlin. If you start with e5 on that level in the first place, in this situation, it's clear that we will see the Berlin and not some complicated closed Rui where black is, yeah, solid, yeah. But if you, you either are solid here with black or you're doing something more ambitious. And if ambitious was the name of the game, you probably don't start with this in the first place, but go with a Sicilian or something more offbeat. But okay, Anand has one white game left in game 12, so he's probably figured that being solid is the way to go. So we get the end game, as we already did in the very dull game 9 and game 7. Game 7 was this marathon game, the 120 move game, and game 9 was the short draw. Yeah, this time we get something a little bit different. H3 is played, and now bishop d7. This is one possible setup for black, one of many, and this is a variation that Anand has not played yet with the bishop to d7. Black's idea is exactly what happens in the game. We can put this on the board. h6, king c8, and now we went with c5 and b6. This is the general setup that is initiated with the move bishop to d7. Black puts the king to c8, later intending to go king b7, and finally connect the rooks. If black gets to connect his rooks in the Berlin endgame, very often he is very close to an equal game. If he improves his coordination, he has the two bishops in the long run, and his structure is not that terrible. Very often the coordination is the issue. And we see that in this game, after rook fe1, bishop e6, knight d5, and now the interesting move g5. Black, I think, solved his opening problems quite convincingly. We see that with g5, black is gaining quite some space on the king side, and what he does is he controls crucial squares, those kind of squares. That also makes it difficult for white to get his 4 against 3 majority on the king side rolling. The drawback of the g5 move, of course, is that this is really glaring weakness now, and also a square that will be used by white in the future. c4, very logical move. Yeah, we support this knight. King b7, and now king h2. This is a move that could have been expected. What white wants to do is to play g4 and possibly king g3. Yeah, gaining space on the king side. Ultimately, it's about using this majority. There are really no other big plans here in this structure. Black went a5. And this is now prompting a standard response from white. White, after a5, he really has to play a4. This is a totally mandatory move. If you allow black to play a4, you simply give away, yeah, all hopes of an advantage, and are probably worse. So let's say you play a nothing move just to show the point. Then a4 will accomplish an activation of this rook, and also a pawn coming to b3. I mean, okay, this is not a very constructive move. I just want to show the general idea. The b3 pawn will be weak. And it's relatively easy to attack sometimes. Yeah, black can do this kind of thing. Or sometimes knight here to b3. So there are ways to attack the weakness. And this is much easier possible here than with the a file being closed. So after a5, white really has to play a4, and it was done quickly by Carlsen. Now knight e7. Yeah, knight e7 intends to regroup the knight to g6. Then maybe bishop e7. g4 was played and knight g6. Yeah, g4 is a move that is preparing king g3, and then ultimately white wants to push f4. That's really the only way forward in this position. Otherwise, you're just shuffling pieces with no particular aim. It's the only way to really open up something. However, the whole situation is in fact far more complicated than it seems, because black has some very nice hidden resources. King g3 was played and bishop e7. Finally, yeah, the rooks now are connected. Yeah, and now this position here we can start to really think about it a little bit more detail. Up to this point, it all went in a very standard way. So what should white do now? Is it possible to get in f4? Yeah, this is really the only plan. Yeah, h4 is totally covered, yeah, by tons of pieces. So f4 is really the only plan. Carlsen is going for that. The question is, however, is that any good? Maybe he should have chosen some different setup. The way it went, it quickly got to a situation where black was feeling rather comfortable. He played the move, Carlsen played knight d2 now. This is a very logical choice. You want to move the f-pawn, ultimately. So you have to move the knight. The question is where to? In the game, Carlsen went here. Yeah, he went to f6. The question is if this is really any good. There are alternatives. White can also try something like knight f1 maybe, intending knight e3 to f5. That was a possible alternative. I still think that black is in fairly decent shape. He has solved many of his problems. Rooks are connected. Those breakthroughs on the king side are tough to achieve. And there are counterplay ideas. And the big counterplay idea we see in the game. After this knight e4 move, bishop f8 was played. And now knight ef6. I had put this on the board earlier. Yeah, this knight, it had a long journey all the way to f6, like here, and then to f6. What exactly is the knight doing there? Yeah, what white wants to do, ideally, is to play knight h5, like here, and then push f4. When the d5 knight and the h5 knight, they both protect the f4 square, so that f4 can finally be achieved. Even if f4 is happening, it's not so clear that it is so terrible for white, for black, by the way. However, in this position here, black, in fact, has a really amazing resource. Anand now played the really surprising move b5. This came as a little bit of a shock, I guess, to many spectators and maybe also to Carlsen. It's really surprising, right? Black plays b5, putting this pawn on a square where it is protected 2 times. Yeah, white can now take the pawn. Let's have a look. In fact, one of the captures, c takes b5, can be very quickly discarded because c6 is very strong. The knight now is attacked on d5. If it goes away, this is falling, and with it basically the whole position. white's whole position is falling apart as it now opens up and black's bishop pair gets very, very strong. Also, there are many possibilities like knight f4 and other ways to use the holes in white's position. So the capture is totally unplayable. And then knight c3, I mean. If white then takes, just to look at this, black recaptures, and now we see that d5 is hanging. So the knight cannot be kept on d5 again, and after a move of the knight, again, b3 is going away, and black enjoys a fantastic advantage again. Note that this is a passer already, and it sometimes is really supported by the king. Yeah? The king is playing a good active role here. It's not a passive spectator or weak piece. Means that taking with the c-pawn was completely impossible. What about a takes b5? This is a somewhat better choice and could be considered. However, after a4 takes, rook takes, we see all of a sudden how this rook has gone active. From a4 it attacks c4, and white really cannot allow black to get this pawn. If the c4 pawn is falling, b5 is the next weakness. And again, black's position that suddenly is starting to open up will have good use for the bishop pair. Very nice position for black. Yeah, rook c1 probably, yeah, to continue this line. It is necessary to keep this protected. And after that, black in fact has more than one interesting try. One possible way to play, which is not the only one, is knight f4. Yeah, putting enormous pressure here, and also knight d3 is in the mix. Yeah, if white takes it, something like that might happen, and black gets active. Yeah, really active. So many opportunities there for black to seize the initiative. It seems that the captures on b5 are both bad. C takes b5 is really bad, and a takes b5 looks dodgy. Means that, okay, black just could play b5, and white really cannot take it. So Carlsen, after I think being a little bit stunned for a moment, it seems, played bishop c3. Yeah, this is a waiting move in a way, but it also does something positive. It puts the bishop away from the b file that's about to be opened. We can put this on the board. Black traded. So the b file is open, and it puts this bishop away from the b file, attacking the a5 pawn. Yeah, this is a good thing, attacking this weakness. Yeah, Anand now played king c6. A very logical move, activating the king and opening up the b file, or clearing the b file for the rooks. Yeah, Carlsen went king f3. This is a good move, really. The idea is that this king should be used actively in the proceedings, and the white king will even step up to e4, supporting the d5 knight. Yeah, there's some pressure on this knight, and the king will help to support. Here we come to a total key position of this game. Anand now took more than 20 minutes for this move, and he correctly sensed that this is the critical situation. Black in fact has a number of possibilities to consider. Mostly there are two ideas, I think. Black can play rook to b8. Yeah, rook d to b8. Intending to do something on the b file, which is what Anand ultimately played. But he also has other ideas, and the ideas are bishop e7 and bishop g7. I think both are valid ideas. The idea is that the bishop on f8 is not very active at the moment, and trading it against the knight might be very helpful. Let's say after bishop e7, there are some interesting possibilities. If white now plays king e4, as was originally planned, I think that after bishop f6, e takes f6, knight takes f6 is immediately blundering this. E takes f, black might just take here, keeping it simple in a way, takes and king d6. Yeah, and now we see that the d5 pawn is probably just a weakness. Rook e8 is coming and the white king is not really helping much here. Black seems to be in good shape here. Means that probably after bishop e7 the move king e4 isn't really good. The idea to take on f6 really is quite serious. Maybe white has to do something like knight e3. Yeah, retreating. Not a happy move, not something that white was dreaming about, I guess. Yeah, but after that, is there something for black to play for? Yeah, he can take f6 and maybe play a position like that, something along these lines, intending to invade. Yeah, white can take on a5, but we will get a4, and c4 is a little bit weak. There's also knight f4. It's possible that black here is slightly better. It feels at least easier to play for black. Mostly because white's weaknesses here, yeah, potentially c4, a4, they feel a little bit more severe than black's weaknesses like a5 or c5. If white, for example, takes and something like that, definitely black is the one dictating events. Yeah, I mean here after some covering move, there's even this one and you will lose the pawn. I think this bishop e7 move was a pretty good opportunity for black, but it is a very difficult position to judge. He went rook db8 as mentioned. Now after king e4 we have the second critical situation here. The move that Anand ultimately played was in fact what I had suggested, and it seems that it's not a really good move. So I was suggesting the right move in a way, but not the right move. Black here played, Anand now played the interesting move rook to b4, an exchange sacrifice. This is a very commonly known motif. I even made a video about it a while ago, at least for similar situations. What is black's idea with the move? The idea is that if white takes the rook, and it is basically necessary to take it, that his pawn structure will improve, he will get a passed b pawn, and possibly win more pawns along the way. This is not a stupid idea, rook e4, but it ultimately seems to be not totally sufficient. Alternatively, Anand could have played rook b3, which was of course the more conservative choice. And maybe this is the one that he should have played. It's probably quite okay for black. There are interesting ideas here. It's not a totally simple or clear-cut position. After rook b3, for example, rook b1, black has an interesting idea here that I was discussing during the broadcast already. Rook a3, rook a1, and black maybe can take on c3 here. A different type of pawn sacrifice, exchange sacrifice, I'm sorry. Black has a pawn for the exchange. He has the complete bishop pair, and he has chances to play against this e5 pawn. One virtue of this g5 push earlier is that it isolates this e5 pawn from the rest of white's forces, and means that e5 can sometimes really be a liability. This in fact is a very interesting position that is probably maybe about equal, but I mean everything can happen here. Would have been very interesting to see this position being played. Black's plan, amongst others, is to play bishop here and then maybe even take on e5. There are mating ideas sometimes with after king takes rook e8. Yeah, this would have been interesting. I think rook b3 is what he should have done. Rook b4, when I suggested this move, I was thinking that after bishop takes, which has to be played, I was thinking that Anand's idea is to take with the a pawn. And this was my idea at least. And I was thinking that, okay, if I get this pawn and I can be active with my rook, then black definitely has enough compensation for the exchange. At the moment, I mean, the white rooks are not doing that much. However, I'm not sure that this is a sufficient compensation as well. One key problem, at least that's what I believe, is that black, when he takes the a pawn, will be hit with rook a1 and we have a rook trade. To make it clearer, if white is doing something like this, which makes some sense, yeah, maybe prepare f4, and black takes the pawn, which it's hard to avoid in a way. I mean, if you don't take this, how are you continuing? Then rook a1 is coming, and a rook trade now is forced. And without rooks, it seems difficult for black to claim a sufficient compensation. Also note that white immediately intends to invade on the a file. That's probably not enough. And if you don't take on a4 here, what is your move? It's very, very difficult. I mean, it's not like white has an easy way forward if black is playing a slow move, but that's not really the point of this exchange sack. Yeah, well, after this, Anand surprisingly took with the c pawn, which I didn't expect to happen at all. And it ultimately seems that it is not enough. After knight h5 now, which is strong but still rather obvious, white is intending to play a4, as it was all along. This king on e4 really plays a useful role. It supports d5, it supports f4. Very nice. Yeah, after knight h5, it seems that black has a hard time. He played king to b7, intending to push away the knight with c6. However, after f4, the problem is that the move c6 is not leading to anything, as white can just push with f5. Something like c takes just wins for white very easily. Yeah, we have yeah, I mean, tons of forks, and will win back one piece and still retain a fantastic pawn roller in the center. So c6 is not possible at all. And if that's not possible, what are you doing there? f5 is a big threat. So there is really not much than taking on f4. There's this suggestion that has been made to try to improve. It might be better, but still after f5, bishop takes a4, takes on g6 and takes here. Ultimately, this is not sufficient. Yeah, here black will be a piece down after he regains the exchange. And the thing is that this e-pawn is also very, very strong. So this is not sufficient as well. Yeah, Anand took on f4 at the end. Knight takes, knight takes, knight takes. Yeah, now what Carlsen plays is total precision. Here black has a hard time fighting this knight takes e6 move. You basically have to take on c4. There is nothing else. Yeah, and now the key move is the following. Rook to d7. Yeah, with this maneuver, the rook is activated very nicely. And yeah, what exactly can black try to do? It's very difficult to find any defense here. And I mean, not only difficult, there is no defense, to be honest. He tried rook a6 here, Anand did. Alternatively, you can look at other moves like maybe king c6, but then white is retreating and coming up with rook c1 next. Yeah, something like this, for example. This will be winning. Rook c8 and then ultimately knight d5 with c7 collapsing. The only thing that white always has to watch out for is that there isn't some silly trick with the b pawn, but it's really nothing serious if you are precise. So king c6 wouldn't have helped as well. Rook a6 was played, and now knight d5. Yeah, that's again important to be this precise. If you play instead the move rook c1, for example, then something like b3 might, or let's say, sorry, rook c6 first, of course, rook c6 and then b3 might prove to be very tricky all of a sudden. But knight d5 is just stronger. yeah, rook c6 being played, and just rook takes f7, gaining a tempo on this bishop, and bishop c5. Yeah, around here there's more than one way to decide the game, but Carlsen's is probably the most forceful. He played rook takes c7, just giving away this. The point is that if black is taking the knight now, there is the move rook c1. And well, you lose one of those bishops back. This is not helping because it's a check, and then rook b5, b2 will pick up the b pawn. So after knight c7, king c7 cannot really be played, and this meant that king c6 happened. Yeah, now knight b5, just back, securing the knight. Here, I think Carlsen calculated this till the end. It's not that difficult. Black took here, e6 first, b3, king e3, and this pawn is very, very dangerous, of course. Bishop e7, and now the deciding touch is h4. There were other moves, but h4 is the cleanest. a4, g5. Takes, a3, this was played. If black takes on g5, then e7 is just easily winning, as white is just about quick enough to stop all the pawns. Yeah, like let's say rook a7, or what is the quickest here? Yeah, many ways to win. Really many ways. You can, for instance, also do this, something like that. Oh, I'm sorry. That's in fact screwing it up. So not rook b7. What is the easiest here? Yeah, okay, just go here and block the whole thing. Not making things too difficult. Okay. In the game, Anand played a3 still, and after king c3, he resigned the game, and this was the end of the match. Carlsen won the match with this victory in game 11 for a total score of 6.5 versus 4.5 for the challenger. So in this game, the match was ultimately decided one game before game 12. So there wasn't a final. There won't be a final game the day after tomorrow on Tuesday. Yeah, what to make of this game? It was a very interesting game, I believe, and this is largely due to the fact that when we jump back, that this b5 resource was all of a sudden popping up. Surprisingly, really surprisingly, it really looked like the queen side is almost frozen, but it didn't happen. With b5, all of a sudden there was an opening of the position, and it really looked like black was taking over the initiative. And it probably really is the case that after king f3 there are continuations that are more comfortable for black. It does not seem to be something totally decisive or yeah, I mean, you cannot prove a clear advantage is what I'm trying to say for black, but he definitely had the initiative here, and it seems at least this is what I gathered from quotes of the press conference, that Vichy maybe got a little bit too optimistic about the whole procedure, and he got this idea with rook b8 to b4 and went for it a little bit too, yeah, maybe a little bit too optimistically and spontaneously in a way. It can happen. It definitely can happen, especially if you feel like this is your moment where you need to go for it, yeah. And I totally understand the idea. I mean, I had the same idea. It just seems to not be that great. Yeah, other ways were maybe more interesting, as we or not interesting but promising. Let's say interesting it was, but it didn't really seem to work out. Maybe here this is what he should have tried. I think in comparison that this kind of exchange sacrifice was really interesting. or bishop e7 earlier. These are the key moments of this game. But you also have to give credit to Carlsen. When it came to converting the whole thing, he was playing absolutely perfectly. Somehow he got into this situation with b5, and this is really a resource that you can easily overlook, and he really defended perfectly after that. It's I mean, it's not his problem if Anand is playing moves like rook b4 and c takes b4. He just played excellently well after that. He somehow got into this trouble, yeah, with b5, but he once he was there, he was really giving his very best. So at the end, a match victory for the world champion, who was the favorite beforehand. If we look at the overall course of the match, I think that it was probably about what we could expect. I mean, I expected Carlsen to win this match. He was the favorite, but I thought that it should be a somewhat closer affair than last time, and it really was. I mean, it is one thing to look at this game where Anand had some opportunities, but also don't forget Game 6. Game 6 really could have led to a totally different match. If Anand just at this particular moment sees that King d2 is a huge blunder and wins this game, then this is getting to a totally different conclusion, this match. And this also would have meant that Anand leads, yeah? And this is the first time that Carlsen actually is behind in a World Championship match. And this is a totally different story. Yeah, you never know how stable people are under this huge pressure, and yeah, this is maybe where, or this is certainly a key point of this match, this Game 6. But it could have gone both ways if Anand is playing better here in the critical positions. Yeah, okay, I hope you enjoyed the match. I think most games were interesting, and I also hope that you enjoyed the coverage that I provided. I think that the next big event that will get some coverage is probably Weiqansee in January. I'm not totally sure about the tournament calendar, but I think there is nothing so exciting that should be covered. But okay, if I see something, I might do that. Also, I want to take this opportunity and thank the many spectators and fans of the channel who donated to the cause. It really helps to keep this channel going, simply because I mean, I invest quite a lot of time into it, and if I don't earn at least a little bit of money with it, it's hard to maintain in the long run. So thanks a lot for all the support, and also for the nice comments that I get often. All right, thanks for watching this. And one thing I can add, that the next live stream of Blitz Chess, by the way, is happening on Monday the 24th. I will also put a video out, of course, to announce it again. So thanks for watching this, and I'll be back soon with new content. Thanks.